going on, everybody? I'm Jenna Wolfe. That is Cris Carter. This is Nick Wright. I'm zapping it up like I've known these guys for years. It's the way it is.
Good morning, Ms. Wolfe.
How's everyone doing?
Jenna Wolfe doing Jenna things.
Absolutely. Jenna doing Jenna things. Hashtag everybody. Yes. Jenna doing Jenna things.
Around 10:30 last night, I heard something. It was like a tremble. It was like a scream. I don't know what it was. I assumed, rightfully so, LeBron did something amazing because this guy all the way up on 100 and a Millionth Street was super excited about LeBron being LeBron.
My exact cross streets.
Did you see how I did that? Did you see how I did that?
That was nice.
Dude, it was a hell of a finish to a hell of a basketball game.
Did you watch the game at the Red Rooster?
I did not watch the game.
I didn't do that.
Yeah, because he lives close to there.
I did not do that, ladies and gentlemen.
Hang out there if you want him. If you want to beef with Nick Wright, some hot takes.
Some hot takes, some beef, some good food, some good drinks. See you at Red Rooster Saturday around 1 in the morning.
Well, what happened, Jenna, last night?
Do you want to talk about it?
Man, that's...
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Let us get into it. You know,
It's our duty.
They call Game 5's pivotal for a reason. Last night, Game 5 between the LeBrons and the Pacers was pivotal. And that wasn't a mistake. It was literally LeBron versus Indiana last night. Shy of calling the actual game, he did basically everything else. 44 points and the quintessential highlight of the playoffs thus far. End of the game, LeBron blocking Victor Oladipo's potential go-ahead. Some would call it goaltending. And then the buzzer-beating three-pointer for the win. And a little bit of the crowd erupting in euphoria. Here he is after the game.
Let's give me the ball. Give me the ball. They had a foul to give, so I wanted to go quick so they couldn't give up that foul because we had no more timeouts. So I was able to turn and get to my spot. It's like deja vu from a regular season game we had versus Minnesota, where I got a block on the other end and then a game winner, but that team never stops. That team never stops, and it's going to be even tougher on Friday.
All right, so one of the things that, not that there's many, but that you could find to knock LeBron on is that he hasn't always been clutch through the years. Has LeBron put an end to that notion, CC, that he's just not a clutch player?
Well, because of the only reason why people would ever want to mention that would happen to be one series, maybe a couple games against the Dallas Mavericks. For those fans of the NBA would say LeBron was not himself. But to say that he was never clutch, you can't have the type of resume that he has and not be clutch. And there's more things to being clutch than to making shots. You know, great players, they're going to make shots at the end. But if you look at all the great stats of the great finishers, that being Jordan, that being Kobe and people like that, their stats at the end of these games as far as knocking down shots, they're not great. But they all have the guts to be able to take them. To be clutch is also to be able to deliver a pass, to be able to set a pick, to be able to come up with a steal, potential block. Like, all these things lead to being a clutch player. It's not about can he just hit the shot at the end? Can he make free throws at the end? It's the totality of it. You can't go to 7 straight NBA Finals, 8 in total, potentially 9 after this year, and not be a clutch player. So it's impossible for that narrative to be true. Now, in the Dallas, did LeBron have one of those marks on his career that, no, we won't let it go, we will acknowledge it? But to say that he's not clutch because of that and all the things he's done since then, to me, that's nonsense.
So everything you said about what being clutch is accurate. It is not always hitting the game-winning shot. Sometimes being clutch is being so good through the first 3 quarters of the game that it is not in question in the 4th quarter of the game. Sometimes being clutch is hitting Kyle Korver open for a 3. Sometimes being clutch is having a block to save Game 7 of the NBA Finals. But the way we traditionally view it is what he did last night.
100%.
And so I'm glad he had that moment last night because the guy that everyone considers the most clutch player in NBA history, LeBron now has more playoff game winners than Michael Jordan, 6-5, and more playoff buzzer beaters than Michael Jordan, 4-3. But this notion that he needed to prove it, I'm going to try in less than 90 seconds to give America a quick history lesson. In 2007, a 22-year-old LeBron James, facing a team that went to 6 straight Eastern Conference Finals, scored 25 straight points to beat the Detroit Pistons and propel that team to the NBA Finals. In 2008, 23-year-old LeBron James, against the team that would go on to win the championship, the Big Three in Boston, put up 45, 5, and 6 in Game 7 of a playoff series. In 2009, 24-year-old LeBron James not only hit almost the identical shot to beat the Orlando Magic, but in that series averaged 39, 8, and 8. In 2012, LeBron James, in the biggest game of his career, Game 6 in Boston, 45, 15, and 5 to end the Celtics run and keep that Miami Heat team together. In 2013, Game 7 of the NBA Finals, 37 and 12 and the game-clinching jump shot. And then, of course, in 2016, Games 5, 6, and 7, when he went 41, 16, and 7, 41, 8, and 11, and then in Game 7 of the Finals against the greatest team ever, a triple-double, the game-saving block, and the game-clinching free throw. The idea that all of that happened, and yet there was still questions, is he clutch, is laughably absurd. But there still were, so he will just continue, since his cement, as Cece would put it, is still wet. He will continue to erect what will be the most lasting legacy of any basketball player we have ever seen.
No doubt. But I think what you said earlier is true. Most people think clutch is the last 2 seconds, one shot. It's going to one guy. It's make it or you lose the game. And he definitely stepped up. Let's talk about last night's game, though. What did that do to the team? And we talk about this all the time. You want them to rely on LeBron to get it all done, or do you want to get everyone else involved? Nobody else was really involved last night. Again, he was sensational.
Yeah, LeBron doesn't want to score 40 points. That's never been a goal of his. At any level that he's played at, it's never been. But with the lack of firepower, the lack of continuity, the lack of guys making wide open shots, this is what he's got to do. Man, we'd like to see the LeBron at 28, 12, and 9.
Okay.
That's where he prefers to be. But because of a lack of another number 2, let's look at all the other superstar players around the league and look at the best player that they have as their number 2.
Okay.
It's totally lopsided. Like Kevin Love is a shell of himself. If he's the second, I mean, he's not even qualified to be a Batman right now. He's
not even qualified to be a Robin.
Yeah, a Robin right now.
He's
absolutely.
An Alfred at best.
Yes, he's manning the cave, making sure all the technology and everything is. I mean, that is all he's doing right now. So when you look at LeBron, this team, and the lack of it being a great team, is forcing LeBron to play like that. So for me, that's what I talked about it yesterday. I wanted to see LeBron take over the game early. And with him getting 20 points in the first half, I think he had 20 in the first half, that's clutch in itself. When you're 2-2 going against the Pacers and the rest of your team can't score, you put 20 points on them the first, because he put them in a position where he could be clutch at the end.
It was the only reason. Listen, LeBron had 20 points on 82% shooting in the first half. The rest of his team had 27 points on 33% shooting. It was the only reason they were in position for the big third quarter and then to hold on in the fourth. Cece's point about going down the list of other playoff teams, Harden has Chris Paul, Steph has Durant, or Durant has Steph, depending on how you want to look at it. And one of them's gone. They then have Klay Thompson. Russ has Paul George. Lillard had C.J. McCollum when they were still in it. Anthony Davis had DeMarcus Cousins. Then he has Drew Holiday. Wall has Beal. DeRozan has Lowry.
You're right.
All of those guys are playing better than Kevin Love has played this postseason. And so is this the way LeBron wants to have to play? No. Is this what is best for the Cavs? Obviously, clearly not. But it's the only option they have. And the other, to me, cool thing about last night is for people that have been trying to find ways to tear away at this almost, it would be an unimpeachable legacy except for the Dallas series. A legacy that has one black mark and then 14 other years of excellence.
Yeah, but every career has that.
Sure.
Jordan has that. A couple of those. But people they have a little blind spot as far as looking at that.
And so people that are, their blind spot is all they can see, being the Dallas series. This year we've heard a new narrative surrounding LeBron. Well, listen, guy can't hit free throws. He's lazy on defense, and I still don't think he's clutch. So let's just look at last night. 15 out of 15 from the free throw line. Lazy on defense. Oh, okay. So he played 42 minutes. And with 4 seconds left, he pins Victor Oladipo against the backboard. And then as far as clutch goes, in the most basic traditional definition, hit a shot that we shoot in our driveway. As LeBron said, 3, 2, 1, put it up. And what did he do? Bottoms in a game that if they lose that game, oh my goodness. We are asked, here's the question if they lose that game. Was that LeBron James' last game ever in Cleveland as a Cav?
Yep.
That's the discussion if they lose that game. That's what was on the line. And he answered the call, as he almost always has.
And if they lose that game, I really have to give out your address, because then I got to have all the people come see you to resurrect you from this.
All right, we have 7 seconds
actual
left.
number.
Who's the best player, Michael Jordan or LeBron James? Just kidding. Coming up, the Browns are on the clock. The draft is finally upon us.
He lives in a big brownstone in Harlem.
Are they about to make Baker Mayfield the number 1 pick?
Hey, chill out, man.
You know.
NFL draft is tonight live on Fox. Let's be honest, the Browns have been on the clock for like 8 years now. We've heard a ton of names in contention for that top pick, but now reports are out that Cleveland is down to Baker Mayfield and Josh Allen for the first selection of the night. Cece, what would you do if you were running the Browns? You had your pick of anyone out there. Who would you like? Who would you choose? Who would you want?
Jenna, I'm just like a lot of reporters not putting their names to stories. General managers or former general managers or offensive coordinators. I'm going with Baker Mayfield. If I'm selecting a quarterback, I'm going with Baker Mayfield.
Really?
During the regular season, I thought Baker Mayfield was the best quarterback. I thought, forget about height, forget about what offense they play in. Which guy do I trust the best as far as throwing the ball? And that's Baker Mayfield. I believe the West Coast offense, which I believe 2/3 of the NFL teams, they run some version of the West Coast offense. He is athletic enough where I want a quarterback who can avoid, problems when the offensive line breaks down. He's accurate enough. He's played at a high level there at Oklahoma. He's been consistent. I mean, his passing efficiency is tremendous. Touchdowns to interception ratio. If he was 6'4", it wouldn't even be close. I believe he is the best of the quarterbacks. I believe he also has a higher ceiling as anyone else. Now, I like Sam Darnold, but I just believe that Baker Mayfield has been a higher achiever and would be more worthy of that number 1 selection if I was taking a quarterback with the number 1 selection.
Well, so I'll give my opinion in a second, but you said something yesterday that you said it was quick, we never revisited it, but it was very interesting, which was that if the Browns really do like Baker, or even if they really like Josh Allen, if they're off Sam Darnold, if that's not the guy they want, that you think there's a possibility that they might not take a quarterback at 1, that they might go Barkley at 1 because one of those 2 quarterbacks would be there at 4?
Looking at the temperature of what's going on behind them, Dave Gettleman, the general manager of the Giants, I believe he's going to take Chubb, the defensive lineman. He's into big people. He's built Carolina with big people. There's a lot of people. Bill Parcells, he's of that theory, build with big people, offense and defensive linemen. So I think he's going to go there. But even if they were to select a quarterback, you have the Jets coming behind them. Who are they going to take? Sam Darnold? Because Baker Mayfield could still be there. And then that's why I believe that the Browns are telling them we like Josh Allen or Baker Mayfield, because one of those guys will definitely be there at 4. So they can get the best offensive player, the best player, the highest ranked player in the draft, which I believe is Barkley. And on most NFL boards, he's the highest ranked player. And then they can get their quarterback with the number 4 selection.
See, what's interesting there is that if you believe that Sam Darnold is the flavor for most teams that aren't Cleveland. And if Cleveland...
You have to believe that.
You have to believe that, but I think most people believe that. And if Cleveland truly has Allen and Mayfield, even though they're very different quarterbacks, ranked equally, then what you're describing makes perfect sense.
Perfect.
Because if you take Barkley at 1 and you know one of the next 2 picks is Darnold, then just by the math, by the 4th pick, either Allen or Mayfield, one of them will be there. So you could, I think most people think they will likely go the opposite direction, that they will secure their quarterback at 1 and take Barkley at 4. But the Giants, I understand they might take Chubb, but they also might say, you know what, Eli, we still owe you 1 for benching you. Let's just give you all the weapons in the world we can. And the Giants could take Barkley at 2. And then the Browns would not be getting the top 2 players on their board.
For weeks and weeks, probably months, we heard that Cleveland was interested in Sam Darnold. And then it suddenly, in the last week and a half, it changed to maybe Josh Allen, and now it's Josh Allen or Baker Mayfield. Just talk to me about it's assumed that everything's set. I mean, they've had the #1 pick. It's assumed they would know who they wanted. Just talk to me a little bit about where they are in their headspace. I mean, what does Baker Mayfield have that a guy like Sam Darnold done? Because yesterday we talked about height and how important that was.
A lot of those things become important than intangibles. It's not necessarily their physical gifts. It's what you get in the individual meeting. They say, NFL executives say in 15 minutes they feel like they can get a good feel for what type of person a player is. Then you get to the personal workouts. How many different things can these guys do? Then you get to football IQ. Do they love the game of football? Or are they just playing because of the benefits of football? And if you look at Baker Mayfield, look at his story, because Sam Darnold's been the highest ranked quarterback for a long, long time. I believe Mel Kiper, for the last 5 months, 4.5 months, he's had Josh Allen. The only reason why he's had Josh Allen #1 is because the people in Cleveland have been telling him that they like Josh Allen. But through this whole process, I believe that Baker Mayfield has been able to overcome some of the things that people think about him off the field. I think when you're able to break down the tape and see how efficient he's been in college, because people don't want to fall in love with the combine too much. You have to fall in love with the tape. What happened in college? And when you look at that, Sam Darnold, you might have thought he was hired before the season, but when you actually look at it, Baker Mayfield has been the best quarterback in college football the last 3 years.
And listen, I understand John Dorsey is making this pick. Hugh Jackson, the head coach, is not making this pick. But Hugh Jackson told this week a Baker Mayfield story that sounds identical to your Cam Newton out of high school story. And it rung to me because I was like, football guy. What resonates with football people? CC has a story about Cam being amongst all the other best recruits in the country at a camp at Florida, and he was the Pied Piper. Everyone followed him.
Yes.
Hugh Jackson this week told a story. He's like, man, I was with Baker. He's with his teammates. It seems like an absurd story, by the way. He all of a sudden walks into the room and says, hee-hee, and everyone on the team starts going, hee-hee. And he said, I've never seen it. He's like, I can't put a word to it, just the leader of men. And the same way that the Cam thing resonated with you, that Baker leadership clearly resonated with Hugh Jackson. I know that sounds like an absurd reason to take a quarterback #1, but those are things that stick out to some of these football guys.
Also being a walk-on, being a survivor, taking a chance, taking over a program. Like, he has everything that you would want in a franchise quarterback.
All right, good stuff. We'll talk much more about this over the course of the show. Coming up, though, did the refs hand the basketball game to LeBron and the Cavs last night? They just give him the game. Just give it to him. Next on First
A little
Things
help. Everybody need a little help.
Hey everybody, Nick Wright here, and before the show moves along, I want to tell you about an exciting new show. It's called the Fox Sports Daily Brief, and it's available only on Facebook Watch. Look, we all know everyone's busy, but the Fox Sports Daily Brief takes the biggest stories in the world of sports and delivers them to you in one video right on Facebook. It's all you need to know about sports from the biggest stars at Fox Sports. So log on to Facebook, search Fox Sports Daily Brief, and look for new episodes every weekday. Now, back to the show.
All right, on to the Raptors-Wizards series. The home teams won each game in this one. Toronto was home last night, so they won. They take a 3-2 series lead. DeMar DeRozan leading the way with 32 points. Boom, there's 2 of them right there. Raptors will try and close out the series on Friday on the road. Nick, how impressive were the Raptors last night?
Very impressive finish to the game. This is a game. They had lost back-to-back games. I thought they were the better team last night, yet late in the fourth quarter, it's a tie basketball game. And then they go on a big run to win the game. DeRozan was excellent. They now take full control of the series. You mentioned, Jenny, yesterday. You win Game 5, you win 83% of the time. You win Game 5 when you have home court, you win 93% of the time. They're now in firm control of what would have been a horrific series loss, 1 versus 8 after the regular season they had.
And you can see, I like the style for which they were able to close out this game. A tightly contested game. Washington was playing well, but DeRozan being a star right there at home. In a typical situation, we would see, oh, man, you can't trust Toronto. They would have lost a game like this. Then they would have been facing elimination going back to Washington. This is what you wanted to see with this team, utilizing their bench, not as much as they did during the regular season, but you could see why this team won the number of games they did during the regular season.
All right, and last night, LeBron James, he hit one of the biggest shots of his career. However, before the shot, LeBron had a big block on Victor Oladipo. Looked like it might have been goaltending. Oladipo was not crazy about the call, non-call after the game. Listen to this.
I got a step on him. Felt like I even got grabbed on the way to the rim. It hit the backboard, then he blocked it. It was a goaltend. I mean, it's hard to even speak on it. That layup is huge.
I definitely thought it was a goaltend. Of course I didn't think it was a goaltend, man. I'm trying to make plays like that all the time, and he made a heck of a move, got me leaning right, and he went left, and I just tried to use my recovery speed and, get back up there, make a play at the ball, and I was able to make a play.
All right, CC, what do you think? You watched the end of that whole game and how that series played out. Did Oladipo have a legit gripe there? Did you think it was goaltending?
Yes, and no one knows better than the shooter. When you are driving to the bucket, and especially when you're getting ready to lay the ball off the glass, your coach teaches you, take the ball. If you can't dunk the basketball, take the ball to the glass, because it's not a matter of is the ball going up, is the ball going down, all right? Because once the ball touches the glass, that's why as a shooter, you take the ball to the glass. So they have to take the ball out of your hand to have a legitimate block. So he knows better as the shooter that the ball went off the glass. Now, LeBron blocked it right after it went off the glass, which is a very tough call. Also, you can't review it, but as a shooter, you know what is best. You know if he got it out of your hand or you know if it came off the glass. So, yeah, I knew that. You could see that it hit the glass first. It was a bang-bang play. They definitely should have called goaltending on it.
Listen, it wasn't an obvious call. It looked in real time to me like it was the Iguodala play from the finals. On replay, it clearly touches the glass. And on replay, listen, if the NBA wants to adjust the rules to where a non-called goaltending that is that crystal clear that it has touched the glass that you can call it, that's fine. Then they should change the rules. But if we're going to talk about replays, the possession before, when LeBron had the turnover, that is reviewable. That ball went off Thaddeus Young. The referees did not review it. So there was an opportunity for the referees to review a reviewable play that was equally as important. I mean, you can see it right here. Thaddeus knocks it out of his hand and hits the baseline. Then it goes out off LeBron. This is a reviewable play that would have been Cavs' ball in a tie game. They didn't review that, even though they could have. The goaltend, it should have been a goaltend. But here's the thing. This is what's so nice about how that game ended. That layup's still only worth 2 points, right? And the Cavs won by 3 because LeBron hit the 3.
Yeah, but you can't do it that way.
Well, I'm doing it that way.
Well, you can't.
I'm doing it that way.
And you can't do that the plays are tit for tat because Oladipo's play comes after the LeBron mistake. So the plays that happen closer to the finish, they're bigger plays. So LeBron, it's not, oh, man, that was just as big. No, it wasn't just as big because also it was a pass compared to 2 points. You don't know if that pass is going to convert into a positive play.
Sure, and I agree with you. Typically, the closer you get to the end of the game, obviously, the more influence those calls have. But it's not like I'm talking about a play that happened mid-third quarter.
No.
It was the possession before, and it was, you're right, it's not a guaranteed 2 points like the goaltend is, but it is Cavs' ball in a tie game to where the Pacers are potentially trailing when they have the basketball. But the other thing is this, this is not one of those, oh, my God, how did he miss the call moments. In real time, I think people were like, that looked like a block, might have been a goaltend. Sure. It wasn't an obviously blown call until we got the benefit of the replay. And I know that we don't know what the Cavs necessarily would have done on the next possession. My guess is they would have shot a 3. My guess is LeBron would have had it. My guess is the Pacers would have foolishly, in each instance, not used their foul to give. I'm confident in all those things. And I also feel like the right team won last night. Oladipo?
Of course you do.
No, well, but also, go ahead.
How'd the right team win? Who's the right team?
The team that I thought had played better throughout the game, the team whose best player played excellent, as opposed to the team whose best player had his worst game of the season.
But it's a team sport, though. Mm-hmm. If you have the rest of the team, the totality of the team, and the coach make good adjustments, just because some star plays, they don't deserve to win the game more. It's a team sport. No one deserved to win the game. At the end, whoever wins it is whoever who makes the plays. They deserve to win the game, not
But that's exactly what happened. Whoever won it was the team that made the plays, right? Right? I mean, do you disagree? LeBron made both those plays.
To me, I don't care who wins.
Sure.
All right? I want to see some great basketball, and you need to deserve to win the game at the end. These plays affected the outcome of the game. That's what the question is. It was a goaltending call. It's not about who deserves it. Everyone deserves to win. No one deserves to win more than the other team. So I disagree with you on that. The Cavs didn't deserve to win. The Cavs had a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter at home. The Pacers fought their way back. What difference does it make who did it? Could have been the 13th guy. It could have been the guy from the concession stand.
I knew it was
what
that
difference
guy.
did it make? Like, that doesn't make one team more deserving than the other.
Just quickly before we move on, are you guys enjoying the non-calls in the game? Like, we haven't gotten a ton of whistles in the playoffs so far, and one affected LeBron and one didn't affect LeBron.
I like when they let them play foul-wise. Listen, the out-of-bounds call you need to get right. The goaltending call you need to get right. I'm not enjoying that they didn't call what was an obvious goaltend. I happen to think the only difference is the Cavs would have won by 1 instead of 1 by 3. But I'm not enjoying that they missed what was a goaltend, because I'd rather not be talking about this part of the game. I'd rather be talking about every other part of the game.
All right, tonight at 8 o'clock, I don't know if you guys heard, the NFL draft is happening on Fox. Couple of questions to ponder. 1, who will the Browns take at the top spot? 2, will the Giants take Saquon there? And 3, how will the Jets inevitably botch everything? We will know all the answers very, very soon. But until then, we are forced to just sit in a pool of our own excitement. Start with you, CC. What are you most excited about to find out tonight?
Well, to me, it's not a player going somewhere. It's not seeing, oh, man, what are they going to do? Who's going to make that trade to try to move up? Who's going to be the first defensive player off the board? To me, it's the overall experience. I didn't experience the draft because I went in the supplemental. So this is something that these kids have that's foreign to me, but I know what's real. In having a lot of kids get drafted, kids I've been involved in their life, and also knowing Roger Goodell in the NFL, like, college football is a farm system that the NFL has by not paying any money. But the real exchange between college football and pro football, it happens tonight. Because tonight, regardless of what the scouts say, regardless of what your parents say, your agent and stuff say, tonight is the first time you start to realize, man, my dream is getting ready to come true. And when you see the commissioner, and commissioner announces the first round, it's such a game-changing moment, not only for that player, but for their families, for the moms that, man, been washing uniforms like dreams realized. And I know Roger knows the financial impact that handshake and calling that name, what it does for families. So Roger gets caught up into it. When he first started announcing the draft, Roger wasn't the way he is right now, but people have explained to him how important it is and the overall excitement. And the players, you see, man, they embrace Roger. Roger is that kind of guy. It's not make-believe. It's not for TV. He knows what's going on. He realized these guys are coming into a business that he runs and the partnership that he needs with these players. And a lot of times it's Roger's first time meeting them, too. So that right there to me is the thing that I always love to see, the exchange, the hug between their first time being introduced into the NFL.
I'll get to mine just real quick. You love the hug. You love what the hug signifies. You've talked about this before, that for a lot of these guys, this is the first time in their lives they're going to touch real money.
Real money.
Real money.
Not make-believe.
Not my agent's fronting me $40,000 for the summer, a house, a car, workout, but real.
And it's for the first time they can believe everything that's been said. We had Sam Darnold. Sam's like, I don't care who I get drafted by. Oh, he cares. He cares what team he's going to and where he's going to spend his future. But it's the first time that you're like, from a kid, when you're 8 years old, you sign up and, man, I'm a part of a team that was called Barnard's Bank. Man, we had red uniforms. We got the ball on the 30-yard line to start the game. I ran a quarterback keep around the outside. Like, I'm on this team representing, and now you're on the team that you have dreamt about for years and years. And that moment right there, to me, is bigger than any other moment.
I love that. And I love what I'm about to say, because it's the total dichotomy of this television show. Because Chris, like, I'm not worried about the specifics of it. I'm excited for one very specific potential trade that hasn't happened. So the Giants, like that. I don't have that experience. That's not the way I touch the NFL.
You have the same experience I do, which is remembering sitting there and watching it what the players' reaction is, but watching what the family's reaction is, watching what's happening in the green room, watching how they're interviewed afterwards, watching them try to fit the cap on, and it's always a little too small, and they always have to make it bigger. They're not knowing these guys have big heads. Like, watching every little nuance of how the day opens up and how the whole thing unfolds and how these guys go from, it's like that line where your life changes. Like the minute before your name is called to the minute after your name is called, you have a completely different outlook on your entire life, and the chapter, one ends and one begins. And as a fan, there's nothing more exciting than to watch this happen. And then you see these guys and you like sort of grow up with them as a fan and as what they're doing on the field.
The other thing, I love watching the suits, because I know, like your guy LeBron, the guys, they think they're clean. They think that, oh, man, I'm getting ready to look good. But they'll look back in 5, 10 years and be like, man, I can't believe I wasted money. What was I doing with that? Why did I pick that color?
And you saw Darius Geis. Geis was like, man, I was going to be spicy tonight. I was going to show. He's like, yeah, my agent told me my teams might not like it. I'm going to go more low-key. Yeah. Darius, if you're watching, man, any team that won't draft you because of the suit you're wearing, you don't want to play for them anyway, man. Dress the way you want tonight, Darius Geis.
Great.
I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
The fake trade, by the way, is who will trade up with the Giants? If Sam Darnold's there at 2, will someone give the Giants a king's ransom to move all the way up? That's the intrigue to me in the top 5 that doesn't involve where quarterbacks are going.
Yeah, this is a guy who don't pick his own clothes, trying to tell a guy how he getting ready to mess up a bunch of millions. Don't listen to Nick Wright.
Okay.
He don't even pick his own pajamas.
Coming up, we're going to go back to some basketball. Did we count out Russell Westbrook and the Thunder too soon? Next on First Things First.
Man, you say
This is Nick Wright, and I wanted to tell you that this episode of the First Things First podcast is brought to you by Buffalo Wild Wings. There's a new boss in town at Buffalo Wild Wings, and he deals in bacon. It's the Bacon Boss Burger, featuring bacon 3 different ways and a blanket. I said a blanket of white cheese sauce. And he's joined by other new favorites like the smothered cheesesteak quesadilla, sweet chili shrimp, and Alaskan cod classic. All pair perfectly with a Sam 76, a fruity ale with the crisp finish of a lager. Hurry in today. Try them all before they're gone at Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings, beer, sports, available for only a limited time while supplies last. And please, of course, drink responsibly. Now, back to the show.
Back here on First Things First, we welcome in Cris Broussard. Chris, late night of basketball for you, but you don't care because you're like,
I love it. I love
man,
it.
you eat it. You like live it.
Back-to-back amazing games.
It was
with 2
awesome.
other decent ones mixed in as well.
Incredible.
All right, well, let's talk about the Russell Westbrook situation, because I want to break down for you, Broussard, what it's been like, okay, during the Thunder Jazz series so far. After Game 2, yeah, Russ is okay. After Game 3, Russ is good, but he needs to do more. After Game 4, Russ is terrible, can't play with anyone. And then after last night's Game 5, Russ is amazing. Russ scored 33 of his 45 in the second half to help the Thunder mount the comeback of all comebacks, down 25 points to help beat the Jazz, forcing a Game 6 in Utah tomorrow night. Here is Russell Westbrook.
We got stops when we needed to. I thought our team did a good job of staying together through it all.
We just never quit. We never quit. I can't pinpoint one thing we did wrong. I thought we just never got down on ourselves, regardless of the lead they built, the shots they were making. We felt, we could have surged back, and we did.
All right, Cris Broussard, was my assessment spot on?
Pretty much.
Okay, that's all I needed to hear. I used a lot of data and numbers and stats like that. Did last night change your opinion at all about Russ and the Thunder?
No, it was just confirmation to me. Like, confirmation, I've been saying this all year, or at least since the first month or 2. The best way to use Russell Westbrook and your best chances of winning at a high level with him are to let Russ be Russ. Let Russ be Russ. He's not going to become Mo Cheeks. He probably is not even going to get better at recognizing time and score in the last 4 minutes and playing that differently than the first 44 minutes. Like, Russell Westbrook is 110 miles per hour all night long. And that's the way to play him. He tried earlier in the season. First month, he was deferring. He wasn't shooting as much. He was trying to get Melo and Paul George to be the 1 and 2 guys. And they weren't any good as a team. And once he started playing like he plays, getting triple-doubles and averaging a triple-double and shooting a lot, they started winning. Now, it's not going to win them a championship, but this is the best chance they have to be the best team they can be. Second thing, we talked yesterday about how you could win with Russ with some 3-and-D guys, some grinders. The other formula is if you just have another super-duper star next to him. And we saw that with Kevin Durant. Even though they didn't win a title, they won at a high level.
Yep. Yes.
Paul George yesterday played at that level. So if you have the second guy, and you can't have a big three with Russ.
No.
Because you can't have a big three when one of the big three is ball dominant. That's why with LeBron, you can't really have a big three. Bosh became a role player. Kevin Love became a role player. Like, you can only have a big three if one of the guys
it's a motion passing offense.
Well, it depends on the way the guys play.
Right.
Like, Ben Simmons shares the ball.
Yes.
You can have a big three with him. Or Steph. They move the ball, move players. So they went with a big two.
Right.
Melo was like a role player. I mean, he didn't even play a ton. He took 6 shots, 7 shots, whatever it was. It was Russ and Paul, and they both were at a high level, and they won.
And this is why I just can't quit Russell Westbrook. Because of nights like that, man, like there are the vast majority, if not every other superstar in the league, packs it in a little bit there. Like down 25, we're down 3-1. The other team, the crowd might as well be in an empty arena with 9 minutes left in the third quarter. OKC is already thinking, what is our future like? We have seen great players in that spot just say, man, what are we going to do?
Yeah, it's easier to quit on the road than quit at home.
Fair enough, but I
agree.
The level I'm not talking about down 15. You're down 25. Midway through the
25, it's easier. The reason why I know this, we played the Giants in NFC Championship, started off the game down 21-0 on the road. That's the only reason why the game got out of control. At home, you have other things that lead to you making a comeback. Besides, just the bench is not the only one hoping. You got 17, 20,000, in a basketball arena, hoping to make a comeback. It's easier to make a comeback, especially for role players at home, than it is on the road.
Fair enough.
I mean, they'll never come back from 25 at Utah.
The only comparison I can think of to what we saw last night was actually a game where the team that came back was on the road, but it was one of the most bizarre games in NBA history. The Rockets-Clippers 2015, Game 6, when they're in L.A.
Without Harden.
With Harden on the bench. Now, they weren't down 25, but they were down, I think, 17. No team has been down that much in the third quarter to not be trailing entering the fourth quarter in the last 20 years in the NBA. And it might be further than that. That's playoffs or regular season. The data only just went back 20 years. But your point about the team that needs to be around Russ is why this season, unless they go win in Utah in Game 6, and then it's a little different story because I think they'd win Game 7, this season's a missed opportunity. Because Paul George is the perfect teammate for him. Because Paul George does some of the things Russ doesn't do. He's big and long. He is, I think, better suited as a number 2.
No question.
And so if you had not spent the money they spent on Melo and they had done some of the 3-and-D things you're talking about, maybe this team's a little bit different. But Russ's effort last night, was inspiring to me. Like, just the all-out, I'm not going to let it end like this. From 25 down to where you are comfortably ahead with 3 minutes left in the game is insane to me.
Yeah, it's like I tell people, sometimes you have a Bentley. If it's got a dent in it, what do? If you can't get it repaired, you just keep rolling it. I mean, it's still a Bentley, and that's what he is. But he's got a dent in it.
That's
because it's going to take a volume of shots. Last night, how many points LeBron scored?
44.
All right, how many shots he take?
24.
Russ, how many points he scored?
45.
40. He scored 1 more point?
Yeah.
How many shots he take?
39.
15 more shots.
How many shots he take last night?
39.
And he was hitting his 3, which is unusual.
He took 39 shots, all right, to be able to get this number of points. So even if you are in love with Russ, you got to realize she's not a perfect date.
Right.
All right? She's not a perfect car. And this is how Russ is going to play. And as a teammate and as a fan, if you're a fan, you have to realize that, there's some upside, but there's a lot of down. And one of those downs is he's not going to make a lot of his teammates better.
What's the difference between Russ having to do it all by himself and LeBron having to do it all by himself?
Well, LeBron's far more efficient.
Yes.
You said,
and he gets other people involved. LeBron you have to force him to take over the game. Russ starts the game with the mentality, I'm getting ready to take over the game. And as a distributor of the ball and the predominant ball handler in the offense, it's a different psyche. As a teammate, you're more excited to play with a player like LeBron compared to playing with someone like Russ.
LeBron also understands pace more. You know, he'll play at different paces in the game, whereas Russ doesn't.
Yeah, if he don't have the numbers, don't have the situation, he'll pull it out. Or he'll push it like he did in game number 4 or 3 to get the backside 3 that he did with JR and Kyle Korver, the huge play we saw a couple games ago.
Real quick question for you. I think that if this goes 7, OKC will win. I think Utah, the stomach punch of losing a 25-point lead, then you're young. Yep. It is so hard to win on the road.
I told you they were celebrating after game number 4.
Yeah,
after the game, they was listening to the crowd.
And so, what do you think the Thunder's chance are in Game 6? Game 6, to me, the winner of Game 6 wins the series. Obviously, if Utah wins Game 6, they win the series. But
I agree with you. I would pick Utah to win this series. I mean, they're going to be at home. That's a tough place to play and win. Like you said, I think they celebrated. They probably learned something from that. Look, and Gobert being out at times with foul trouble enabled Russ to get to the rim, which has been a problem for him with Gobert in there. So I think Utah will win it. But I agree with you. If OKC pulls it out, I think they have the advantage.
All right, Cris, stick around. We'll see you a little bit later in the show. Coming up, back to football. Are the Cleveland Browns about to shock the world with that first pick? Joel Klatt joins us live from Dallas to break it all down.
Hey, man.
For the first time ever, the NFL Draft is live on Fox. Join Troy Aikman and Joel Klatt in Dallas for all the big picks tonight and tomorrow, live on Fox and the NFL Network. But why wait for tonight if we can talk to Joel, unfortunately, I called you Joel because I'm so dialed into Joel Embiid with the Sixers. I'm so sorry. You look like a Joel, if that makes you feel
good to talk to you, Joel. Talking a lot of playoff basketball over here, and we perverted your name. We apologize.
I understand. I don't worry about it. We're very much in the midst of the NBA playoffs. I get that, but for a night and maybe 2 for tomorrow night, we're certainly going to be locked into the draft.
And we are locked into Joel and only Joel until the Sixers play again. Speaking of the draft, let's start with the Browns. There's been so much talk about them sort of changing who they want, reports of what they're going to do, what they're not going to do. Now it looks like maybe it's Baker Mayfield or Josh Allen. It was Sam Darnold. Who do you think the Browns will take at that #1 overall pick?
Yeah, it's been really interesting because what John Dorsey has done during this process is pretty remarkable when you think about it, because I can't remember the last time that we just didn't have a very good idea of who the #1 pick in the NFL draft was going to be. Now, we've narrowed it down. There's certainly that, but they have held their cards so close to the vest and done a great job of it. Now, we are starting to get some late reports, and I can confirm a few different conversations that I've had. In fact, more than 3 that have confirmed that the Browns are down to actually Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield, and that Sam Darnold might be the one on the out with the Cleveland Browns. So don't be surprised if it's either Mayfield or Allen. And of the 2 players, Allen very much more fits what John Dorsey has done in his past. He's more of a projection type of a guy in a draft from a GM perspective. So my hunch right now, guys, is that Josh Allen, the quarterback for Wyoming, is going to be the first name said tonight in AT&T Stadium. And candidly, that's a little bit of a surprise for me. I thought it was going to be Darnold this whole time, but it looks like Darnold might be slipping towards 2 and 3.
So you believe that the Browns are going to start off like the Browns do and make a mistake with the #1? Right? So Browns start off.
I mean,
Joel Klatt, if you have the #1 pick, what quarterback are you taking?
I'm taking Sam Darnold. I mean, listen, he's the safest player, and they cannot miss on this. Bottom line, I mean, they've had 24 quarterbacks since 2000. CC, 24. I mean, that is an astonishing number they cannot miss. And I don't care if this is a new regime or not. That fan base, that logo, that brand, they need an answer at this position. And for me, Darnold is the guy because he's the least risky of any of these quarterbacks. He's certainly got the requisite skill on the field. He's clean off the field. He's a good leader. He's a great teammate, and he's a blue-collar guy. I think he fits the city. He fits the team. But, you know, Josh Allen certainly has a lot of upside. But again, you are drafting upside with Josh Allen. He is a tremendously skilled player, but we have not seen him dominate really at any point during his football life. That would worry me a great deal. At some point, even Tom Brady, who didn't have a great career at Michigan, dominated at certain points. He had several fourth-quarter comebacks before getting selected in the 6th round. Remember the NFL draft. We're talking about the #1 overall pick. So, you know, it would certainly be a kind of a wild name to hear in my head. But that's the way that the Browns look like they're going to go. And again, it could be Baker, still could be Sam, but I think it's going to be Josh Allen.
Joel, I don't know if this makes you stronger or weaker in your convictions, but I totally agree with you that Sam Darnold would be the pick at 1 because
weaker.
I know you don't like that I'm with you. It's just the safe move. If you're Cleveland, I don't think you have the benefit of going with the highest ceiling. I think you got to go with the guy who you know or have the highest belief won't be a bust. But that's neither here nor there. Let's go to the next pick. Assuming the Giants don't trade, assuming they are staying at #2, can they pass on Saquon Barkley? Would they pass on Saquon Barkley?
Well, here's the real crux of it, is that would the Giants really pass on Sam Darnold? So all of this starts, you know, with the dominoes that potentially a Josh Allen selection at #1 starts to knock over. And you know, Nick, I don't know if they can pass on Darnold. Now, they've said they're not really in the quarterback market, and certainly when you hear them talk, and in particular their GM, when Gettleman talks, you get the sense like he doesn't want to touch a quarterback because there's almost too much pressure surrounding a pick of a quarterback. He's built that up so much in some of those press conferences that he's done. But if Darnold is there, that's going to be awful interesting. I happen to believe, with the conversations that I've had, that the pick for the Giants, if Darnold's available, is going to be either Darnold or Bradley Chubb, the defensive end for North Carolina State. I think he's the best pass rusher in the draft. And if you look at the blueprint for that organization, when they have won Super Bowls, they have always had a dominant pass rusher and a dominant pass rush. Generally, organizations try to follow their own blueprint. That's why I think Denver at 5 is going to be looking for a quarterback. And that's why I think the Giants will be deciding between a franchise quarterback of the future in Darnold and potentially a great pass rusher in Bradley Chubb.
Joel, all of these quarterbacks that we're talking about have upsides and downsides, and every couple of years we get a guy who's a bona fide first-round or top 10 guy who ends up slipping for whatever reason. Rounds go, picks go, and they keep dropping. Two guys I want to ask you about. Is it possible, could you see Josh Rosen slipping out of the top 10 and Lamar Jackson, which we've been talking about a lot, is it possible that he would slip out of the first round and then maybe get picked up a little bit later on?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that Lamar Jackson right now is a borderline first round pick. He should have run the 40. It would have set him apart from some of these other quarterbacks. It doesn't mean that you're going to play a different position just because you can run a blazing fast 40. So that's a little bit concerning. He definitely improved as a passer enough to get selected very high. His tape is remarkable. That tape is going to save him in a lot of respects because this draft process has not gone all that well with him from a PR standpoint, from a representation standpoint, and certainly from kind of the stance that he doesn't want to play another position, i.e. doesn't necessarily want to help the organization in whatever way he can. He's a great player. I love his ability as a quarterback, but right now I think he's kind of a fringe first-round pick. Now, the slide for potentially Josh Rosen, I don't think it's there. Because with the 3rd pick, Jenna, I think that the New York Jets are targeting Josh Rosen. I think he's the guy they want. He's the guy that they targeted when they made the move up to number 3, knowing that most likely Josh Rosen was going to be there at 3. That's why they didn't go up to 2 or 1 to try to get, you know, a guy that they were targeting outside of Rosen in the quarterback class. So I think Rosen's the pick at 3. We'll see if that pans out because, again, in this scenario with Allen going 1 and potentially Chubb going 2, maybe Barkley, but potentially Chubb going 2, Sam Darnold would still be available for the Jets. And now you've got a question between Darnold and Rosen, so the Jets would have to make a decision at that point. But I think the slide, which is crazy to me because he's the safest pick, could be Darnold. You know, if he won't get past 5, but we're talking about a guy that really should get selected number 1, and if he doesn't, I think to me that's a slide. But I don't think Rosen's in terms of a slide. I don't think he's getting past 6. So I don't think he's going to get on one of those Aaron Rodgers-esque kind of sitting in the green room waiting for, what was it, 24?
The worst,
if I'm not
Joel.
mistaken.
It's the worst.
Yeah, Joe, I think it's very intriguing that you have Sam Darnold potentially being the guy who slides compared to Rosen, but which team, since you're there on the ground in Dallas, which team do you think might take that chance and move up? And when these quarterbacks begins to slide, they jump on that quarterback.
I think it's Buffalo. CC, they have the ammunition, right? They've got all those picks built up that they can move up with. The most picks in the top, 100 picks in this draft. They're the team that I believe can get up there, whether it's 6 with Indianapolis if someone's still on the board, whether it's 4 with Cleveland, which is certainly a pick that's in play, 2 with the Giants. I mean, that's the only other issue I didn't discuss with the Giants is that if the Bills get panicked and they say, whoa, Darnold's available and we don't want to allow a team in our division in the New York Jets to potentially select him, they might throw the kitchen sink at the Giants to get up in front of their division mates and go in there and get a quarterback. But I certainly, CC, it's Buffalo. If there's a team that I was certain was going to trade up into the top 10 for a quarterback, it's the Buffalo Bills.
All right, Joel, let's remove the quarterbacks, remove Chubb and Barkley, because I feel like 90% of the discussion has been about these 5 quarterbacks and those 2 players. There are going to be all pros, maybe Hall of Famers elsewhere. Who's the best player in the draft that is not a quarterback and not those 2 guys we talk all about, Chubb and Barkley? The best skill position guy, not one of those 2.
Best skill position?
Oh, I'm sorry. Best anything non-quarterback, not Chubb or Barkley. Pardon me.
I think it's Quentin Nelson. It's like the non-sexiest conversation of all time, an offensive guard, right? But I tell you what, when you're a quarterback, you love that offensive guard. Quentin Nelson is a great player, and I think he's the top overall prospect in the draft. If you're telling me you got to bet your mortgage on one of these guys having a gold jacket at the end of their career, it's Quentin Nelson, the guard from Notre Dame. He's nasty, which you want in an offensive lineman. He's great in pass protection. He's dominant in run blocking, and what I love most about him, guys, is he sets that pocket. So as a quarterback, the worst thing you can do is have the pocket kind of dump into my lap. But if I have a guard that can set the front of the pocket and I can step up, guess what I can do? Get the ball down the field to Cris Carter. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to hurt the defense with. He allows me to do that. I think Quentin Nelson is an all-pro caliber player very early in his career.
Joel Klatt, you're a smart guy. You're a smart guy.
I make one comment, Joel. I make one comment, and it follows me everywhere.
Thanks, man.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate your insight. We'll be watching tonight. I'm Jenna Wolfe, and thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Make sure to subscribe and tell your friends, family, and coworkers about the podcast, which, by the way, is available on iTunes and all your favorite podcast apps. You can catch a fresh new episode every Monday through Friday on FS1, starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern, 3:30 a.m. Pacific. So long, everyone.